when it comes to like how do you get yourself off the ground, honestly, it's clarity. Like just get really clear. And I understand that you want to do 4, 5, 6, 7 different things. But if you look at like Skype versus Zoom, for example, like nobody uses Skype really at the level that they would use Zoom. And that's because Skype tried to do 7 or 8 things.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Blitz Growth. Super excited today. I have another Aussie on the show, which is always fun. We've got Dain here. He's a branding and marketing wizard. He's actually the founder of Rivyl, the fastest growing Australian branding agency, working with brands and companies all over the world. Some crazy big names in there like Chase Bank, Culture Kings, Coca-Cola, you name it. So some really interesting stuff that he can discuss later. He's also got an amazing podcast, killer blog content, and a range of courses. So we'll also dive into that and all the amazing things he's doing there. Branding is one of those things that isn't covered as much as it should be. It is one of the most important things when it comes to getting to, that 10x level. You look at all of the top brands in every niche, they always have amazing branding, amazing word of mouth. There's something that usually sets them apart that you can't pay for. You've got to build it. So we're going to go over that today, which will be super interesting. It'll give you guys a lever to pull, whether you are starting a business, you're trying to scale a business, you work on a personal brand, you're trying to sell your digital products or physical products. All of these will be relevant for understanding your brand voice and building a better brand and making it stronger. So I'm not going to talk anymore, but Dain, thank you so much for joining the show. I'd love to have you here.
Yeah, what's up, man? Good to be here. Yeah, absolute privilege, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. So I know I mentioned that, branding is one of those things that's really important, but it's not really talked about enough. So I'm hoping to kind of, go over a lot today. But starting out, give us a quick little kind of 1-2 lines as to the value you usually bring people, like when you introduce yourself at a party or a bar or something like that. Kind of like, how do you get people interested in what you do or who you are?
Yeah, that's a good question. Usually when people say, "Hey, what do you do?" I say branding. They go, "Oh, it's just one of those topics that people like. I don't know much about it, so I'll just say, "Oh, that's cool, good for you." But yeah, sometimes it touches a nerve and people get really excited. It's just typically like, "Hey, like how do I do well on social media?" is kind of the go-to, or hey, I got a personal brand, but I don't know what to do with it. And then I usually ask them, like, what do you do? And they say a list of, 400 things. So for me, branding is really about clarity, like just helping people get clarity on what they do and just simplifying things. It's usually just getting rid of the noise and just making things simple for them.
Got it.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things that you could go into in the marketing world. How did you land on branding? Like, why did you choose that as your channel?
It's a cliche thing where it's like, branding chose me or whatever, but, without sounding cliche, I think for me, I worked in a t-shirt shop early on when I was 17 and I was doing screen printing and, I just learned how to design quickly because we were in a retail setting, so like a shopping mall or a plaza or whatever, and people would walk in. We'd have like maybe 8,000 people a day would walk past the window. I'd put funny t-shirts in the window. They'd come in and they'd say, "Hey, I need a logo for my business, and I need 70 t-shirts." So in the period of 4 hours, I'd design a logo, press all their shirts, fold them up, put them in a bag, and send them on their way. And to me, that was normal. It was just normal to have to think.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm not saying the logos were good, but I did it quickly, And then people would come in and they'd say, "Hey, I want a unicorn juggling chainsaws, spitting fire out its mouth. Can you sketch it up and print a t-shirt for me? I need it today." And I'm like, "I'll sketch it and, illustrate it and we'll see how far we get." So I just learned creative, like fast-paced, like big thinking creative early on in my life. I went through a series of sales jobs for about 10 years and I was in a position where I was managing a world gym club, and I had to manage, the club. I had to produce sales. I had to run on social media, do their marketing. I just learned I kind of self-taught marketing and branding based on my background. I knew design, I knew copywriting, I knew selling, I knew sales, I knew e-commerce. So I just kind of crammed these things together and started producing content for the gym. And then rather than just saying, "Hey, come buy our stuff," I would dance in a gorilla suit, or I'd dress up like Crocodile Dundee and try to catch the biggest guy in the gym and just make a comedy skit for a minute for the gym. We were on the news, we were in the papers, we got a lot of virality doing that crap. And, the club went from like 30 sales a month to almost, over 300 sales. And that was in a small town. So I felt like I started to know culture. I understood behavior. I understood how the human mind works and what got attention. I left there. I was working at a retail outlet selling phone devices. Gary Vee came to speak. I saw him, and I don't know what happened. It just, for some reason in my head, I was like, I'm going to start an agency. Like, it was ridiculous. I had no money. I had no computer equipment. I didn't even have the software. I hadn't designed in years, and something came over me. I just felt like I needed to start designing and being creative again. I think maybe because for a decade I wasn't being creative other than making silly Crocodile Dundee content. But yeah, it just so happened that I was inspired by Chris Do. I saw him on Instagram. I followed him because of his YouTube content. I was enthralled by what he was doing with carousel content at the time 3 years ago on Instagram. And I thought, I got stuff I can teach. Let me make carousels. And didn't expect anything to happen. Started producing content to get some attention from my agency. And then people started saying, hey, make this content for me. And then I'd make their content, tell them their logo sucks. So then they'd let me redesign their logo. And then I'd build their website. Then I just started hiring people. There was a line out the door of people that needed branding. And it organically happened because people wanted content and a better website, but I identified you don't have a brand, you don't have a color palette, you don't have fonts, you don't have logos, you don't have a strategy, you don't know who your audience is, you don't know what to talk about. So rather than creating the materials, I went to the root of the problem, which is let's build you an identity. Let's figure out kind of like your company strategy, your target audience, all your message systems, what's your mission statement, what's your tagline, like let's build this thing properly. I think for me, it just drove me nuts that people didn't have those materials or kits, and they felt overwhelmed and flustered and beaten down by the market. So we just kind of looked at it as it's like a training camp for your business. Let's get you fit and ready so that when you do go do marketing, you've got everything you need rather than scampering and trying to make things work with these terrible assets that most businesses have to work with.
Yeah, no, it brings up a great point as well. When it comes to figuring out your brand, where would you say is the starting point? Because I agree with you. I think most people jump in, don't really think about the branding, the positioning, the messaging that much. But what's more important? Is it more important to understand who your customer is, or is it more important to understand who you are? What's the sequence or the order that people should go about figuring out their brand?
Yeah, so this has been debated by a lot of strategists and agencies and all the rest of it. I think because I've started businesses in the past, and I've done a lot of speaking and I've done a lot of content creation before I started an agency. And I think for me, it's clarity. And when I say clarity, I mean like, let's just say if you're listening to this, you have a business. Well, I think the easiest way to get clarity is basically 3 steps. Number one, like, know the problem you're solving, right? Because if you really know the problem you're solving and actually clearly define it, and you can explain it in like 10 seconds, like if you can explain the problem you solve in 10 seconds, that's really powerful. The second step is like knowing how your products and explaining how your services or your products solve that problem for that target audience. Third, who are you talking to? And why should they care? And why should they listen to you? And why wouldn't they go to your competitors? People's knee-jerk response to that is, well, I care and I'm authentic and I make my stuff is better quality.
I'm unique.
And I'm unique and I do the right thing. And we call it the vanilla values. And vanilla values are, I have a quality products and it's to empower people because I'm an authentic, real person that has integrity and you should listen to me. And I get it. That's, they're all good things, but the problem is everyone says, it's almost like everyone's like an NPC. Like if they're saying the same things, like that's NPC talk. We need to get interesting. We need to be the main character. So it's like, we gotta get clarity around all of those things. And then it's really about thinking, how do I give someone goosebumps? Like, that's as simple as it is. Like, how do I get people to go, ooh, I've never seen that before, or what they just said spoke to me in a weird way. It hit different. Let me see what that's all about, you know? So the last piece is probably just being different. You know, I think so many people think they're different, but then you really compare them to their competitors, and there's really not much there that's different. Maybe they have a different color or something, but have a different personality, have a different style, have a different way by which you portray yourself. And I get it, that makes people nervous. They don't want to take risks, but I think the risky thing is fitting in, and certainly the risky thing is not being clear. If you're confusing in any way to the world, it's going to be hard for you to move your product or service. You might know what it is, but is it clear for other people to understand it in 10 seconds to go, I need that, I get it. Yeah.
No, super valuable. And I think just for listeners, like an easy practical way of doing this is like literally just writing it down. Like I found in some of the businesses that we've started, I've tried to write down what the problem is, what our solution is, and then why we're unique. And it ends up being, you know, a 2,000 word essay, whereas it really needs to be kind of like, you know, 3 sentences.
Yeah, I think the main points of those sentences is like, why are you doing what you do? Like, if you could just go on YouTube and type in Simon Sinek start with why, and that pretty much covers what I mean by why. It's like the why, what you do, and how you do it. If that's really clear in 10 seconds, it's like, hey, this is why we exist, this is what we do, and this is how we do it. If people get excited about that statement that you share with, you can even test this on your target audience. Like, just say, hey, I need to run this past a couple of friends, and just pitch it to them. Just be like, really honest with me. Does that make sense? Are you confused? Like, just see how it lands. But yeah, you're right, man. A couple sentences will do it. Like, you don't really need an essay. You don't need a 20-page business pitch deck. You just need what's called an elevator pitch, and that's just to give clarity to people that want to do business with you.
Yeah. And you've got a few things going on. So I think we'll focus on, you know, what you're doing with your clients or your agency, and then, you know, your course stuff, because I know there's a lot of people listening who have digital products. But starting out, how did you sort of like land your first few clients? How did you kind of land your first few students? Let's maybe do clients first. Obviously that takes a little bit of personal branding. But kind of what was your process on landing your first few clients?
Yeah. So for me, weird background. I did MLM, like multi-level marketing, back when I was 21, and I actually kind of took a lesson I learned in MLM and actually applied it to my first business. And it's not my IP. This is just something that happens in the MLM community. They call it your power base. Your power base is essentially you get a list and you write down everyone you know. I know this is a bizarre exercise, but it's powerful. That's why they call it the power base. So most people, when they do this, they write down like 50 people. But here's the weird thing. Someone who is 21 years old, by nature, should know about 7,000 people. Isn't that bizarre?
Wow.
Like you know what I mean? So I went to my Facebook, and you can do this on Facebook. You can go to Facebook. This is gnarly, but you can go to Facebook. You can actually download your friends list and compile it into an Excel spreadsheet. This is what I did. And I went through it. I just crossed out everyone I didn't know. I was like, I don't know who these people are. And then I got it down to about 2,800 people that I knew. And then legit started combing through the list. And I'm like, who do I know that owns a business? And I would just highlight their name in green. Like, I own a business, I own a business, I own a business, I own a business. And straight up just started texting, DMing, and messaging people. And it was just simple. It was like, yo, what's up? Dain here. Long time no chat. Hey, just wanted to hit you up randomly. I'm starting a business. Wanted to know if you could do me a favor, speak to you soon. I would just legit ask people for a favor. Maybe half of them got back to me. This is a weird thing. Asking people for a favor, at least here in Australia, people are kind of obliged. Like, oh, mate, you need some help? Yeah, sure, I'll chat to you.
Yeah, sure.
I just get on a call and I just say, look, man, I'm going to sell to you. Just out of the gate. I know this is a bit random. I do want to reach out to you. Do want to get a coffee, but like, hey, I'm starting a business. I just wanted to know if you need any help with anything. I'll do something for free. And that's it. And then people were like, yeah, I need a business card. Yeah, I need a logo. Yeah, I need a website. And what happened is, like, within 3 days, I had a network of like, 28 people I needed work. So I did all their work on my free time. And then half of them hit me up the next week and said, hey, I got a friend that needs help. Thanks for helping me out. Here's Cassie, she needs a logo. Here's Dave, he needs posters. And that's the weirdest thing was I did a pile of free work to build a network, which is my power base. And then that rippled out into $50 jobs and then $100 jobs and then $500 jobs. And then no joke, like within 3 months, I was doing $5,000 jobs because I was willing to do that initial push to get attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's always, like everything, you know, there's that huge debate of never work for free, or like, I feel like 50% of the entrepreneurs are work for free, gain experience, build trust. The other 50% are like, no, never work for free. Always charge, you're valuable. So I feel like it always goes back and forth between those two. But I agree with you. I think I started doing free work as well when I first started too. So I think that's a more effective version. But
yeah, I think it depends how you see free, right? So I looked at it as I was getting paid in experience. I was getting paid with a network, and I was getting paid with momentum, right? So I had stuff to do, which kept me busy. I was getting introduced to people I'd never met. So because I did that free work, you know, those 28 people were introducing me to 150 people, right? And then now I had 150 leads that I paid for with my time, and now I'm getting paid back for that investment. Because if you look at it this way, I invested, right? Rather than spending, you know, $5,000 running an ad on a piece of content, I just did, you know, 300 hours worth of free work and then boom, you know, so I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So it depends how you look at it as free. As long as you're getting something back, you know, don't let people manipulate you and take advantage of you, for sure. But look at other ways to get paid potentially. Yeah.
No, I agree. That's awesome. And then, so I know that's on the agency side. Then on the course side, you know, how do you get your first students for that? I think I saw there was like more than 11,000 students, which is a huge number. I'm sure it's even more than that now. But kind of how do you get the course rolling? I know digital content is like the holy grail of what everybody wants, because, you know, you make it once, you sell it multiple times, all sorts of other benefits. But yeah, how do you sort of get that course rolling? How do you get your first few students there?
Yeah, I think it's an exchange of energy. You know, like my Instagram content is free. I give everything I know and I learn away for free. Like you don't have to hire me if you just literally scroll through my feed and everything I've taught ever is in there. It's just annoying, right? So I scroll through and read everything. So what happens is people find my content because I post a carousel, but it's engineered in a specific way that people see it and they go, this is really valuable. There's a ton of information in this post. Let me save this. Hey, you know who needs to read this? My friend Steve I work with. Let me send this to Steve. Hey, even my page, let me just feature it in my stories. So my content's engineered to be shareable. And this is like free marketing. It's like free billboards on thousands of accounts that reshare my content every day. I just see them as little billboards, digital billboards everywhere. People land on my page, they see my bio, they go, oh, this guy's a brand strategist. I wonder if he's got a course. Like, this must go through their minds. They click my link, and then they just learn that, oh, what this guy does on social media, he could teach me how to do it. Let me go do it. So like, I don't even advertise it. New courses I'm about to launch, I will. So like, again, that's one strategy, and there's many strategies to launching courses. I got a buddy who, he does ads for courses, and he's getting, you know, 1 or 2 million pounds within 6 months for people's courses, right? And the way he does it is, let's build a funnel, let's build an amazing system, let's sell it and advertise it really well, and let's put $10,000-$15,000 on ads. So that works too. So for me, I think I netted around 400,000 in course sales in the period of 12 months.
Dude, that's unreal.
With no ads.
Yeah.
That's all from content
Amazing
creation.
ROI.
Yeah, imagine if I spend money on ads, you know. So my only regret is like not doubling down on it. And the problem I had was I had a new baby. I was growing an agency at light speed, and then I had courses, and I was like, I gotta put one down. So here's the exciting thing is I pretty much replaced myself with the agency, and over the next 6 months, we're creating an online university for branding.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like the universities are the way to go. I feel like courses were, you know, early 2000s, and now it's moving towards universities and communities and that sort of stuff, because they're so much harder to replicate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, just for all the listeners, like, Dain really knows what he's talking about with like almost 500,000 Instagram followers. He knows how to create content. So definitely check that out and get some tips on there. You won't be disappointed. Amazing content on there. Next question would be, when it comes to kind of getting started, is there anything that you've learned that really accelerates the growth or accelerates the process of finding your voice, building a brand, and then starting to see success or results from it? Is there any kind of, I know it's a long slog, but is there anything that you've found that's really helped speed this up for your clients or speed this up for even your personal projects?
Yeah, I would say like there's almost like fundamental rules, and we try to simplify things. So even if you read my content, you'll notice that we just really kind of just dumb everything down, because that's how my brain works. I can't remember big complex ideas. I have to use a story or a narrative or a metaphor to remember things. But like when it comes to like how do you get yourself off the ground, honestly, it's clarity. Like just get really clear. And I understand that you want to do 4, 5, 6, 7 different things. But if you look at like Skype versus Zoom, for example, like nobody uses Skype really at the level that they would use Zoom. And that's because Skype tried to do 7 or 8 things. They tried to be, a search engine, a chat platform. They tried to be all these other things. It was confusing. So then people just said, well, Zoom just do videos. I'm just going to go over there. That makes sense to me. And this is honestly the biggest thing, man. We work with maybe, we talk to maybe at least 150 business owners a month, like at least at any given month. And the common thing is, hey, how do I get profit on my Instagram? How do I generate ROI? How do I get money on Instagram? How do I get people to give me money? And even though they won't admit it, it's genuinely their interest, right? You need to think about, how do I just get clear, be really good at 1 or 2 things, and then give it away for free? Like, how do I out content my competition? How do I out teach my peer service providers that do the same thing I do? And if you have a clear message, a defined voice, something that anyone could understand, and you just give it away for free, what happens is people naturally want to talk to you, because they're like, Dan, this person's giving me more value than all those phone calls I made this week to that, these competitors. I learned more on this guy's page or this girl's page in 5 minutes. Let me just call them. Yeah. So you're building a relationship by proxy with hundreds of people potentially. I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. And then kind of leads on to the next one. When people are focusing on branding or building a brand, what are some good KPIs they should focus on? Because I know it's kind of hard to wrangle in like what to look at in terms of success or how to know if it's working. But like, what sort of KPIs do you guys usually look at with your own online courses or maybe your own clients? What's a good number or a good thing to look at to see like, okay, yeah, all of this content that I'm producing or all of this planning that I've done to build my brand is working or it's not working?
I think it comes down to like if you Google Marty Neumeier's brand ladder, there's a great graphic online that he depicts how do you litmus test your brand. So essentially there's these different tiers, and the entry tier is like, people know about you. Great. That's not necessarily branding. It might just be you did marketing. Congratulations, you marketed or advertised well. You start to move up different tiers, and I guess I can't remember this off the top of my head, but the top tier is like, customers are absolutely like delighted. Like, not only do you give them a great service or products, but they're preaching about you. So the way I would KPI test a brand is, are people spreading the word for you? Like an ambassador, right? So think about a friend of yours that loves Air Jordans or loves their iPhone or is a Google fan, or they tell you about their favorite band, like, oh man, I love Parkway Drive. I mean, how these guys, like, that's branding. When it becomes a contagion, like when you start to culturally be contagious because people are doing the work for you, that's when you're like, okay, branding is working. But if you don't see people preaching why you should be worked with, it's a sign that there's some work to do. If you're not getting
Mm-hmm.
referrals, or you're not seeing people shout out, or you're not seeing people give you testimonials, like people aren't going out of their way to help you, there's probably some
Mm-hmm.
work to be done to improve your branding.
Yeah.
Yeah. KPIs are tricky
Yeah.
because that's probably more marketing or advertising. So branding, if you look at the KPIs for branding, it's more emotional. It's more reactive. It's more
Mm-hmm.
emotionally driven. It's more relationship oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. And I love how you actually broke it down into, number of referrals you're getting, number of reviews you're getting, number of tags you're getting, or number of shares that you're getting. So, if you're obviously putting out good content, the share value is actually a good one to look
That's
at.
a really good
Because,
point, actually. Yeah, because like when I put a post up the other day, and I usually measure how effective a post was, or like how many shares it got. I don't even look at the follower metric. I'm like, I don't care about the follower metric. I don't care about likes and comments. I'm like, how many times was it shared? That's the most valuable thing to me, because I'm like, if I put up one post and it gets 5,000 shares, I'm like, damn, I touched a nerve. Like, that emotionally hit people. They were so inspired by that post, they had to share it. I'm like, that's branding. If people feel the urge to share, you've really connected with them in some kind of way.
Yeah. I think great point that you also make is deciding on what style of branding you want to do. So, for example, I know some people go the humorous route. I know we were talking about like Liquid Death before this. Some people go the like crazy shock factor route. Some people go the authority route. So many different styles of branding you can go for as well for courses or course content creators or digital products. Is there any trend that you've seen across? I'm sure you've kind of seen a lot of what's out there in terms of the digital course in the marketing space. Is there any specific brand style or type that you're like, yeah, that works really well for this niche?
Yeah, I think, I mean, are you talking about in the case of personal branding, or are you talking about like companies?
I think for courses,
yeah.
I think for courses, most of it is personal branding, because usually you got to be the expert to teach.
Yeah.
I know, and the route that we were also talking about in terms of the university, I know that's like less personal and kind of more authoritative in terms of, that's the authority you go to learn about this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there any styles of brand that you find works really, really well with digital products?
I would say like I certainly have seen trends, and I think like generally speaking, it's people that have a bit of charisma, or they're not serious. There's a sense of like just honesty, and like just being really themselves, like not sounding scripted. I call it camera-itis. You know how some people look at a camera, their voice changes and their posture changes, and they don't know what to do with their hands. Like I think if you can kind of get past that initial, feel of things, and you can just start really just being yourself, and just really start being honest and kind of funny and a bit weird. I feel like that stuff trends really well. It also depends on the industry. Like if you look at real estate, everyone's really serious and kind of professional and go get them. If you look at creatives, they're usually kind of eclectic and a bit thoughtful and deep. If you look at, sales training guys, they're really fired up and energized and loud. But when it comes to personal branding, the trick for me at least is really knowing yourself and like creating a list of like, what am I great at? Like, what are my strengths, and like, how do I behave around my best friends? And what are my weaknesses? What are the things I struggle with? And let's just come to terms with them. Because when you're a personal brand, and I learned this from Chris Do, he's like, you got to look at your strengths and your weaknesses and own both sides. Kind of like Eminem at 8 Mile at the end, when he's like, yeah, I live in a trailer park. Yeah, I'm white trash. Like, what else you got?
Yeah.
So when I chat to Chris Do about personal branding, he said, this is the powerful thing, right? He says, I'm a painful introvert, but I'm also really loud when I'm around my friends and family. So he's like, I'm a loud introvert. So he flipped it. So he's like, I'm introverted, but I'll be loud and I'll do my best. And even when he gets up on stage, if you ever see him live, he comes out and says, hey, look, guys, I'm a little nervous. I'm an introvert. I might be weird for the first 10 minutes. And it's just really cool that he just starts that way, because people are like, oh, cool.
Just owns it, yeah.
He just owns it. So then I think when you start to own the negative stuff about yourself and you flip it into a positive, people will relate to that. I think so many personal brands try to be perfect. Don't, like, make fun of yourself, like goof out, just have that realness. And I think if you have that, people sense it and they really do enjoy that, and you're more likely to get more core sales, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know there's all sorts of people, like they cycle through, like you had the Russell Brunsons, now you're like at Alex Hormozi, all these other guys. But I think you are right. The more genuine seems to be the way to go. Also pointing out flaws in yourself, the industry, or any problem that you're trying to address. I think people love like finding out the flaws or what's wrong. Like debunking stuff as well is always super interesting.
Yeah, and it feels relatable because they you know, they honestly self-talk. So then when you're honestly self-talking publicly, it's just more relatable. You know, this is why politicians irk us, because they never, you know what I mean? They never feel genuine because they're so polished, and we don't like it.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. All right. Well, Dain, we've taken up a lot of your time. I really appreciate you coming on, being here. You've shared some awesome value. You know, where can listeners find out more about, you know, what you're doing, projects you're working on, what you have coming up? You know, give us a few directions to head in.
Yeah, cool. Just honestly, Instagram. I joined TikTok last night. This is really sad. I've started making videos really late, so I'm a bit of a boomer when it comes to making videos. But yeah, just Instagram. Just look up Dain Walker, and then if you want help, Rivyl.com. Spelled with a Y. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, we'll link to all of those as well, so you can go check those out. And yeah, please, everybody listening, definitely go check out the courses if you are trying to learn about branding, or if you're starting your own course yourself. Some awesome examples in there. So Dain, really appreciate it. Have a good one and enjoy your Australia Day.
Yeah, big love, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, we put a bunch of effort into making great content for this YouTube channel. So please hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit like, and tell a few friends about it.